In this tutorial, we'll talk about how to get started with using GitHub for a collaborative project. So notice that if you follow the previous steps, you should have already had Git installed on your computer as well as created an account on GitHub. So here I'm logged into the Wellesley QAI account, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new repository on GitHub. So I'll do new repository, and suppose I want to name this new repository demo project. And I have the option to add some description or to change the settings to private. And I'm going to add a README file to go with this repository. So here I could see that I have a new repository called Demo Project under the Wellesley QAI account. And this README file that we've just created is also here. And if we navigate into settings and under Manage Access, we have the option to invite collaborators to join us on this repository. So I could use this button here to invite a collaborator. And let's go back to the main page. And the next thing I want to demonstrate is how to obtain a local copy of this remote repository on GitHub. And the way to do that is to use the command git clone. But first, we want to obtain a URL for this remote repository. And I'm just going to use the HTTPS connection here. And this is the URL that I want to copy. And the next thing I'll do is to go back to desktop, and I want to open terminal. So I'll do this using the command line. And first I want to use present working directory to see where I am. And I know I want to clone this remote Git repository onto desktop. So what I will do is cd change directory to desktop. And here I could use the git clone command followed by this URL that I just copied to clone this remote repository onto desktop. So here indeed I could see the demo project repository here, and if I open it up, I could also see this README file in this folder. So if we navigate into this repository, we could use the git remote command to see some of the setup after the git clone. So here we could see that it's using the default name origin to refer to the local copy of the remote repository, and it's set up so that I could both download files from the remote and to upload files. And one last thing I want to show is we could also create or initialize repository locally. And the way to do that is to use the git init command. And first I want to navigate out of my repository and back to desktop. And if I do git init, and so suppose I just want to create a test folder, so a test repository rather. So in this case, git init test would create this empty git repository called test locally on the desktop. And I could also turn an existing folder or existing directory into a git repository. And so suppose I have another folder that's already on desktop, let's just call it test1, and I want to turn this folder into a git repository. And the way to do that is to say git init and then test1. And here I turned the test1 directory into a git repository. So this means that alternatively, we could also initialize a repository locally and upload to GitHub. And this could be done using some Git remote configuration, but it's just going to take multiple steps to get there. But the point is both workflows achieve the same purpose. So whether you want to create a repository locally and then upload that to GitHub, or if you want to initialize a repository on GitHub and then use the git clone command to obtain a local copy, both commands, again, achieve the same purpose. But personally, I just find it easier to initialize the repository on GitHub and clone the copy to my local environment, just because a lot of the setup will be automatically established in this way.